Captain Kim Jae watched through the thick glass windows of the space station as something impossible happened in the darkness above Earth. A massive ship appeared out of nowhere, bigger than any human city, of crystal and light, with tall spires that twisted and bent in ways that hurt to look at. Strange colors pulsed through its hull, and every screen on the bridge started flashing red warnings. "Sir, they're trying to talk to us," said Park Hannah from her communication desk. Her hands shook as she worked the controls. This was it. The moment every human had wondered about for hundreds of years. Were they alone in the universe? Today, they got their answer. The air in the center of the bridge began to glow and shimmer. Slowly, a figure took shape, but it wasn't solid like a person. It looked like it was made of pure light and energy, constantly shifting and changing. When it spoke, its voice sounded like beautiful music mixed with the wind. The alien said in perfect English, "I am High Arbiter Velter of the Zephyrian Empire. We have been watching your world. We see you have just learned to split atoms and barely know how to leave your planet." How cute. Admiral Lee Dongmin stepped forward. He had trained his whole life for moments like this, though he never imagined it would feel so humiliating. "Welcome to our solar system," he said, keeping his voice steady. "I am Admiral Lee. I speak for all humans. We are happy to meet you." Alien's form flickered and pulsed brighter, like it was laughing. "Your people still live in bodies made of meat and bone. You still burn simple chemicals to push your tiny ships through space. We have watched many worlds grow up. Most species are smarter than this by now." Lee felt his jaw tighten, but he kept his diplomat's smile. "We're always eager to learn." Good Veltar continued. "We rule thousands of worlds across this part of the galaxy. We could find work for your people. Simple work, of course. You could grow food on farming planets, or dig metals from asteroids. Easy jobs that don't require much thinking." The bridge fell silent. Every human officer stared at the alien in shock. They were being offered jobs as servants and farmers for an alien empire, to make their own choices about our future. The alien's light grew much brighter, and the air around it started to hum with energy. "You refuse our generous offer. How funny. Look at your weapons. You still throw pieces of metal at each other. Your power comes from burning dead plants and splitting tiny bits of matter. We control the very forces that hold atoms together. But don't worry, little humans. You're far too weak to bother anyone important. Stay here on your small world. Play with your simple toys. When you get tired of being so backward, we will still be here." Before anyone could respond, the massive alien ship simply vanished. One moment it was there, filling the sky above Earth, and the next it was gone. Only the smell of electricity in the air proved it had ever been real. For a long moment, nobody spoke. The humans on the bridge just stared at the empty space where impossible technology had been floating seconds before. Dr. Yoon Soo-jin was the first to break the silence. She studied alien life forms and had dreamed of this day since she was a child. "They just ignored us," she said quietly, "like we were insects, not even dangerous enough to step on." Captain Kim Jae had not moved from his spot by the window. He was still looking up at the stars, thinking about what had just happened. The aliens had ships that could appear and disappear at will. They claimed to rule thousands of worlds. They had technology that humans couldn't even understand, let alone fight against. But something about the conversation bothered him. Something about the way the alien had spoken to them, like adults talking to babies. There was no fear in its voice, no worry at all. It's amusement. Like humans were a funny pet that had learned a new trick. "Maybe they're right," Dr. Yoon said sadly. "Maybe we really are just primitive compared to them." Kim Jae finally turned away from the window. His face was calm, but his eyes were hard. "Maybe," he said quietly. "Or maybe they just made the biggest mistake of their very long lives." The other officers looked at him in confusion. "They didn't try to conquer us," Kim Jae explained. "They didn't destroy us or demand we surrender. They just ... dismissed us. Like we don't matter at all. Like we could never be a threat to them or their empire." He walked to the communication station and began recording a message that would be sent to every human government on Earth and every human colony in space. But here's what they don't understand about humans, he continued as he worked. We don't like being told we're not good enough. We don't like being dismissed. His finger hovered over the send button. They think we're too primitive to matter. Let's show them how dangerous primitives can be. Commander Han Minho floated in his small scout ship, staring at what used to be New Sol Colony. 50 years ago, this place had been home to 3 million people. Families had lived here. Children had played in the artificial parks. Scientists had studied the strange blue plants that grew on this world. Now there was nothing but twisted metal and empty space. Can you find anyone alive? Minho asked his partner, Lieutenant Choi Soo-ben. She was scanning the wreckage with every sensor they had. Sudashben shook her head slowly. No life signs, no emergency beacons, nothing. She looked up from her controls with sad eyes. It's just like the other colonies. They're all dead. Minho had seen this same scene 6 times before. 7 human colonies, all destroyed in the same way. Whatever weapons had hit them didn't just break things apart like normal bombs. The metal looked like it had been melted and twisted by forces that shouldn't exist. In some places, matter had simply stopped being there, leaving perfect holes in the wreckage. No warning signals were sent out, Subin reported. Whatever hit them was too fast for anyone to call for help. Minho recorded everything with his ship's cameras. The evidence would go back to Earth, where people much smarter than him would try to figure out who had done this and why. But he already knew the answer. Everyone did, even if they didn't want to say it out loud. The Zephyrians were back. On Earth, President Lim Na-yoon sat in the underground war room, surrounded by generals and advisors. The table in front of her showed a map of human space. Red dots marked where colonies used to be. Show me the pattern, she said to Intelligence Director Ko Hume-Woo.Ko. Touched the table and the map changed. Lines appeared connecting the destroyed colonies. All of them were within 50 light-years of Earth. All of them were established in the last 20 years. And all of them were attacked using the same type of energy weapons. Zephyrian weapons, said General Bei Jinsu. Everyone in the room knew he was right, but hearing it said out loud made it real. The aliens who had dismissed humans as too primitive to matter had decided to kill them anyway. I don't understand, said Minister Park. Kungsu, 50 years ago, they said we were harmless. They laughed at us. What changed? General Bei stood up and walked to the map. We changed. Look at this. He pointed to the human colonies scattered across nearby star systems. 50 years ago, we had barely reached our own moon. Now we have settlements on 43 worlds. We're mining asteroids, building space stations, and sending ships further out every year. So, Park asked, so they thought they were talking to cavemen with stone tools. They didn't expect the cavemen to spread across the galaxy in just 50 years. Bei's voice was angry. They thought they could ignore us. Now they realize we're not staying on our little planet like good pets. President Lim looked at the red dots on the map. 7 colonies. Millions of people. What do we do about it? Bei smiled, but it wasn't a happy smile. We show them that primitives can be very dangerous when you make them angry. The war started quietly. Human ships that looked like Space Orcs attacked Zephyrian bases and disappeared before anyone could fight back. The aliens expected to face energy weapons and force fields because that's what all advanced civilizations used. Dead. Got hit by chunks of metal moving faster than bullets. Captain Ojihai commanded a ship called the Sledgehammer. It was exactly what it sounded like, a big asteroid with engines and weapons stuck on it. It didn't look like much, but it could punch holes through alien ships that had never been damaged before. Target their command center, she told her weapons. Officer Song Taeon, firing, Song replied. The ship shook as their huge gun launched a piece of tungsten metal at incredible speed. On the Zephyrian station, Raelian commanders watched in confusion as their shields completely failed to stop the human attack. Their energy barriers were designed to deflect plasma beams and particle weapons. They had no idea what to do about a big chunk of metal flying at them. Direct hit, Song reported. Their command ship is breaking apart, Jihai allowed herself. A small smile. The Zephyrians had spent thousands of years perfecting their defenses. They could stop any energy weapon ever invented. But they had never thought about someone just throwing rocks at them really. Really hard? The human strategy was simple, but effective. Build weapons that looked primitive, but worked perfectly. Attack quickly and disappear before the enemy could. Respond. Hit them where they didn't expect it, with weapons they couldn't defend against. For the first time in their long history, the Zephyrians were losing fights. Their advanced technology was useless against enemies who refused to use advanced technology. Their shields couldn't stop simple kinetic weapons. Their sensors couldn't track ships that looked like asteroids. But the aliens were learning too. They were studying human tactics, adapting their defenses, and preparing countermeasures. The advantage of surprise wouldn't last forever. The real war was just beginning. Dr. Kang Yujin stared at the small glass dish in her hands. Inside it, a drop of clear liquid was eating through a piece of alien flesh-like acid through paper. The Zephyrian tissue bubbled and dissolved, turning into nothing more than gray dust. 3 years ago, Yujin had been a quiet scientist studying tiny sea creatures that lived in the deepest parts of Earth's oceans. She had never hurt anyone in her life. Now she was creating weapons that could kill thousands of aliens at once. The war had changed everyone. "Explain it to me again," said General Bei Jinsu. He was staring at the dissolving alien tissue with a mixture of amazement and disgust. Yujin took a deep breath. The Zephyrians aren't like us. They're not completely solid. Part of them exists in our normal world, but part of them lives in what they call the energy realm. It's like they're half-ghost. And your virus attacks that connection? Yes, it breaks the link between their physical and energy parts. When that happens, they fall apart at the molecular level. Yujin's voice was steady, but her hands shook. As she set down the glass dish, they basically dissolve into nothing. Captain Moon Jae-sung stepped forward. His face was covered in scars from a battle where the aliens had used weapons that burned through human flesh like it was paper. "Will it hurt them?" Yujin nodded slowly. "Very much," Moon said coldly. "They burned my entire unit alive." Turnabout is fair play. The biological weapons were just the start. Every time the Zephyrians found a way to defend against human attacks, humans found a new way to hurt them. When the aliens made their shields stronger to stop human bullets, humans made bullets that could change direction in midair. When the aliens jammed human radios, humans created computer viruses that could destroy alien communication networks. The person leading the cyber warfare was a young woman named Shin Hai-wan. Before the war, she had been a college student who liked to hack into video games for fun. She was creating digital weapons that could shut down entire alien fleets. "Their computer systems are incredibly advanced," she explained to the military commanders. "But they're also incredibly complex. The more complex something is, the easier it is to break if you know where to push." She showed them a screen full of alien text and symbols. "This is their quantum network protocol. It took me 2 years to figure out how to read it. Now I can write programs that make their computers think they're getting valid commands when they're actually getting instructions to self-destruct." General Bei watched as Haiwan's virus spread through a captured alien computer, turning it into a useless pile of melted circuits. How long before they adapt to this? Maybe 6 months. Maybe less. Haiwan shrugged. But by then, I'll have something new. That's the thing about humans. We're really good at breaking things. The key to humanity's success wasn't better technology. It was the ability to adapt faster than the enemy could respond. When Zephyrian energy weapons started melting human ships, humans built armor that could absorb the energy and turn it into power for their own weapons. When the aliens tried to control human minds with psychic attacks, humans built simple radio jammers that blocked the mental signals. Commander, Unsungmin learned this lesson during the longest battle of the war. His base on Proxima Station had been under attack for 6 days. Soldiers were exhausted, running out of ammunition, and using whatever they could find as weapons. "Sir, we're out of missiles," reported Sergeant Chen Minji. "Then we improvise," Sungmin replied. He looked around the maintenance bay they were using as a command center. His eyes fell on a mining laser that was used to cut through asteroids. "Can we mount that on a fighter?" Minji looked at the huge industrial tool. "With enough duct tape. Maybe 20 minutes later." They watched through the station's windows as their makeshift weapon cut through an alien cruiser like it was made of butter. The mining laser had been designed to slice through solid rock. It worked even better on alien hull plating. "Look at that," Sungmin said, almost laughing despite the desperate situation. "They spend centuries perfecting their warships, and we beat them with mining equipment and duct tape." Minji grinned as she watched the alien ship break apart. Maybe being primitive has its advantages. The aliens had started calling humans the plague species in their military reports. They couldn't understand how creatures they had dismissed as barely intelligent could adapt so quickly to every new challenge. Every time the Zephyrians thought they had found a way to defeat humanity, humans found a new way to fight back, but humanity's rapid evolution was attracting attention from something much more dangerous than the Zephyrian Empire. Deep in the empty spaces between stars, ancient beings that had been sleeping for millions of years began to wake up. They had felt the disturbance in the galactic order they'd worked so hard to create. These beings had watched civilizations rise and fall for eons. They had guided some species to greatness and destroyed others that threatened the cosmic balance. They were older than planets, more powerful than stars, and they had never encountered anything quite like humanity. The gods were waking up, and they were not pleased. Admiral Ru Hen was drinking coffee on the bridge of her flagship when reality started to break. She watched through the main view screen as every star in the sky flickered at exactly the same moment. Not like something was blocking them, but like the universe itself had forgotten they existed for just a second. "Admiral," called Kim Bora from the sensor station. Her voice was shaking. "I'm getting readings that don't make sense. Something huge is happening in 17 different star systems at once." Before Heian could respond, the space in front of them began to tear open like paper. What came through shouldn't have been possible. Ships that looked like they were made of pure mathematics floated in the void. They had no metal hulls or engines that humans could recognize. Instead, they seemed to be built from equations and energy, constantly shifting between shapes that hurt to look at. Across the galaxy, the Zephyrian Empire was dying. Arbiter Veltar, the same alien who had dismissed humanity 50 years. Ago sent one final message before his ship began to dissolve around him. "Humans," his voice crackled over the radio. "You don't understand what you have done. Your war with us has forced them to wake up. The architects are our creators. It's made us what we are. They are gods, and you have made them angry." The transmission cut to static as Veltar's entire homeworld simply stopped existing. One moment it was there, a planet with billions of Zephyrians living on it. The next moment, there was just empty space where it used to be. Dr. Lee Yunsu stared at the data coming in from across human space. As Earth's best physicist, she thought she understood how the universe worked. Now she wasn't so sure. "These beings aren't just using advanced technology," she told the emergency council meeting. "They're changing the laws of physics themselves. They made a planet disappear by convincing reality that it was never there in the first place." Before anyone could respond, every human in the galaxy heard the same voice in their head at the same time. It was ancient and vast, like the sound of stars being born. "Young species," the voice said, "you have broken the order we created. Surrender now, and we will make your death quick. Refuse, and we will erase you from existence itself." President Lim Na-yoon was old now, but her voice was still strong when she broadcast humanity's response. To the entire galaxy, unknown beings were willing to talk. But humans don't surrender to threats. We've survived this long by never giving up. The aliens' answer came immediately. Jupiter disappeared, then Saturn, then Uranus, and Neptune. 4 giant planets that had existed for billions of years were simply gone, like they had never been there at all. The message was clear: surrender or die. But humans had learned something important during their war with the Zephyrians. They had learned to turn every attack into a lesson, every defeat into useful information, even as their outer planets vanished. Human scientists were studying exactly how the aliens had done it. Captain No Tae-woo commanded the first human fleet to fight the architects directly. Ships didn't look like the crude asteroid weapons humans had used at the start of the war. There were sleek combinations of human engineering, captured Zephyrian technology, And new innovations based on studying how the architects attacked? They're trying to delete us from reality, reported his science officer, Commander Yang Xiaojin. But every time they erase one of our ships, we rebuild it from quantum backup files stored in other dimensions. Taewoo stared at her in amazement. How is that possible? Yang Sujin smiled grimly. Because we're not trying to become gods like they did. We're just trying to survive. Every time they kill us, we learn something new about how their weapons work. Then we use that knowledge to become harder to kill. It was true. The architects had expected to face another species like all the others they had encountered over millions of years. Some civilizations they guided to become advanced energy beings like themselves. Others they simply destroyed when they became too troublesome. But humanity was different. Instead of trying to transcend physical reality, humans embraced it. Instead of seeking perfection, they sought adaptation. Every time the architects used their reality-warping weapons to destroy human ships, the humans would study the attack, learn from it, build defenses against it. When the architects tried to erase human consciousness from existence, humans had already backed up their minds in quantum storage systems spread across multiple dimensions. When the aliens tried to destroy human ships by changing the laws of physics around them, humans built ships that could operate under different physical laws. The architects were confused. They had ruled the galaxy for eons by being perfect, unchanging, and all-powerful. They had never faced an enemy that grew stronger every time it was defeated. What are these creatures? One architect asked another as they watched a human fleet rebuild itself after being completely destroyed. They are not. Seeking transcendence, came the reply. They are seeking survival, and they are very, very good at it. For the first time in millions of years, the gods were learning to feel something they had forgotten: fear. Fleet Admiral Park Hyeonju no longer had a body in the way humans normally understood it. Her mind existed in a million different places. At once, connected to other human consciousness through invisible threads that stretched across space and time. Around her, if the word around still had meaning, reality bent and twisted like clay in the hands of a child. The final battle was happening in a place that wasn't really a place. It was the space between dimensions, where thoughts could become real and the laws of physics were more like suggestions. Park had volunteered to have her mind linked with thousands of other humans, creating a group consciousness that could fight the architects on their own level. The enemy appeared as shapes that made no sense. They looked like mathematical equations that had somehow learned to think and move. Their forms constantly shifted through geometries that hurt to look at directly. When the leader of the architects spoke, its voice sounded like the heat death of the universe. "This is impossible," it said. "We erased you from existence. Your pattern should not be here." Park's reply came from a million human minds speaking as one. "You keep saying that, but we're still here." She was right. The architects had tried everything. They had deleted entire human fleets from reality, only to watch them rebuild themselves from quantum backup copies. They had attempted to collapse human consciousness into single points, only to discover that human minds now existed in multiple dimensions at the same time. The battle that followed couldn't be described in normal words. The architects tried to edit humanity out of the universe, like deleting text from a computer file. But humans had learned to exist in several different versions of reality simultaneously. When the aliens destroyed one version, the others kept. Fighting, the architects launched weapons that rewrote the laws of physics in local areas, turning space inside out and making time flow backwards. But humans had been studying these attacks for years. Every time the aliens used their reality-warping powers, humans learned a little more about how to warp reality themselves. "You are doing something that should not be possible," one architect said as it watched human ships reform after being completely destroyed. "You are learning to become like us, but you refuse to abandon your physical forms." Dr. Kwon Min-soo, whose consciousness now existed partially outside normal space and time, finally understood what was happening. Her mind was connected to the group consciousness, but she could still think individual thoughts. "You're not gods," she said to the architects. "You're evolutionary dead ends." The mathematical beings pulsed with what might have been confusion. Explain. You reached a point where you stopped growing. You became perfect energy beings, transcendent and unchanging. But perfection means you can't adapt anymore. You're like a finished painting, beautiful, but frozen in place forever. Another architect's form began to flicker and destabilize, and you refused to become static. Every time we destroy you, you use that destruction to learn something new. You are not primitive. You are evolution itself, given consciousness and purpose. The truth was becoming clear to both sides. The architects had achieved what they thought was the ultimate goal. They had become perfect beings of pure energy, transcending all physical limitations. But in becoming perfect, they had also become unchanging. They couldn't grow or adapt anymore. Humans had chosen the opposite path. Instead of seeking perfection, they sought survival through constant change. Every defeat taught them something new. Every loss made them stronger. Every time the architects tried to destroy humanity, humans used that experience to become something the architects had never seen before. We were like you once, the lead architect admitted. His voice now contained something like fear. Billions of years ago, we were biological creatures who fought and struggled and adapted to survive. But we grew tired of that existence. We sought transcendence, peace, perfection. And you found it, Park said through the quantum link. But the price was that you stopped being able to change. Yes, we became eternal and unchanging. We thought that made us superior to all other life forms. The architect's form was growing dimmer. We were wrong. Around them, the battle was ending. Not because one side had defeated the other, but because the architects were choosing to retreat. For the first time in millions of years, they had encountered something they couldn't understand or control. What are you? The lead architect asked, as its forces began to withdraw to the edges of the galaxy. Park's answer came from every human mind in the collective. Consciousness. We're what you used to be before you decided to stop growing. We're a life that refuses to give up. Consciousness that refuses to become static. Evolution that never ends. You are monsters, another architect said. But there was no hatred in its voice, only recognition and something like sadness. Maybe, Park agreed. But we're monsters that are still alive, still growing, still becoming something new. You're perfect, eternal, and unchanging. Which one of us is really the monster? The architects didn't answer. They simply faded away, retreating to the dark spaces between galaxies. They left behind warnings for other civilizations. Beware the species from the third planet of the Sol system. They appear primitive, but they are something far more dangerous. They are evolution incarnate, and they will never stop becoming something new. Humanity had one. It's not by becoming gods, but by refusing. To stop being human